Hey everybody, it's Brad here from Yugioh Team Plus One. Today I'm coming at you guys with a Deskbot deck profile. So this deck is kind of interesting for those of you that have seen more traditional builds of Deskbots, but I definitely think it's the right way to take the deck. So I'm just going to go through it and I'll talk about each card and why I'm running it. So Deskbot 001, it's the tuner you need to make cards like Beast, Ignister. It's just really good card for the deck, but you don't want to see multiple of it. It doesn't do anything really after you get one. 002, this card isn't great in the hand unless you have pendulum scales, but if you do open one of it and a machine duplication, you can make an insane play, so triple of it is good. Deskbot 003, it's like a broken tour guide for the deck. Not only does it bring out any of the Deskbots, it can also boost one of them in the damage step like insanely high. So, kind of nuts. 004, this card is honestly what made me want to play the deck. It's rather insane. I don't know how else to put its effect, but yeah, it's nuts. I got one Deskbot 009. It is pretty much an Armades that can increase its attack by the attack of all their Deskbots you control. So it can get pretty big. It can usually one-hit your opponent, but yeah, just one of it. You don't need to see multiple. I run a Trick Clown and a Cyber Dragon for lights, and then Garnet and triple Brilliant Fusion. I opt to play Brilliant Fusion in this deck because the deck likes its normal summon. It likes summoning things like 003 and 004, and if one of those summons gets stopped, I don't want to lose, because if you don't do anything in a turn, this format's so fast, you can just lose right there. This gives me a chance to do another summon. Then I have a small Speedroid engine consisting of 3 Terratop, 1 Tackenborg, and Red-Eyed Dice. So what this does for me is, it lets me get a summon out before I have to use my normal summon, so I can use Terratops into Tackenborg, make a Phantom Knight Breaksword, then I can use this effect, and optimally, I'd have a 005 as a scale or an 006 that I could pop and bring back something from my graveyard because of their effects. So that's the idea behind it, and there's also another cool wombo combo I can show you guys within a second. 555 and 666, they're the best scales, and you want to see your scales because pendulum summoning with this deck is very good. 2007, I kind of wanted to balance out the scales, and I didn't want to max out on 007. It's kind of a bad card besides being a scale, but it does piercing, so that's kind of nice. 0008, this is mainly because it has a pretty nuts effect. None of your other Deskbots can be targeted by card effects, and it can attack twice. So machine dupe on this card pretty much equals game. And also, if it isn't, you can make a Hope Harbinger afterwards and still have one of it left over. So I already talked about Brilliant Fusion. There's still some more plays I can talk about with that card. I run 1 base. Multiple base is okay, but I just am running so many other cards that aren't Deskbot cards that it doesn't feel right to play multiple of it. I know that you can shuffle in like itself, so if I had 2 of it, I could shuffle in the one in my hand. But since I have cards like my Perform Ages, my Speedroids, and Cyber Dragon even, it just doesn't seem smart to play more than 1 to try to get the mulligan effect. It's just not worth it. Double Instant Fusion, I opted for 2. 3, it goes along with what I was talking about in my previous video. The risk doesn't outweigh the reward. It's a good card for my deck. It extends my plays, but it is not worth bricking with multiple of it. Triple Machine Duplication, the card is nuts in this deck. It can bring out game with almost any of them, so really, really nuts. And on the right one, it makes some insane monsters. So on 005, you can pop 3 back row from the summons of all 3 of them, then make a Nova with 2 of them, then make an Infinity, and then absorb the 3rd, or just leave it out there if you want. But pretty good play. Chu, you get 2 searches off the Chu you specialed from it. You can set up your skills from that, whatever you want to do. And then I run 1 Twin Twister in the main. The deck loses the Solemn Strike pretty easily if it doesn't have an out to it, so I thought 1 Twin Twister would be safe in the main. Don't want to lose instantly if they have some back row. So I'm going to talk about the side briefly, but it's not actually a side deck. Just note, it's just ideas. So the second Cyber Dragon is for Cosmos, and it's if I was playing against a Cosmo deck, I can side this in because not only is it a brilliant fusion target, but also it can deal with big ships, pretty much. Winter Cherries, it's okay. I actually don't think it's that great of a card, but it's good against BA. It's a card you can consider. Mirror Resonator is a card that I would side in against, what is it? Not Cosmo. Mirror Resonator is a card that I'd side in against Pendulum decks in place of my main deck Cyber Dragon. So what this would do for me is they have a monster face up from the extra deck. I can summon this from my graveyard after I sent it with Brilliant Fusion. And from there, can extend my combos pretty easily. It turns Brilliant Fusion into a 1-card jet. So, yeah, pretty good. Then we got Psychic Commander. This is another idea because I was opting to play Emergency Teleport with double Ghost Ogre before I was playing the Cyber Dragon, and then you could side in Psychic Commander to help you make Nat Beast, Barkion, and even Ignister. So that's an idea to keep in mind when you're building your own deck. I played a second Twin Twister. I would probably actually up this to 3 just because Card of Demise Klee is a very relevant deck right now. 2 Ironwall. Honestly, Cosmos aren't a big threat, so that's why I didn't opt for 3. But 3 Mask Restrict. Monarchs are a big threat. And then we got Fortress Dragon for the Cyber Dragon, obviously. Naturi Barkion for Card of Demise Klee. And then Dante if we're opting to run the Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries. I never know its actual name. I just combine those 4 words in different orders and it messes up. But for instant fusion targets, we got Norden, and we got Panzer Dragon. So Norden can bring back the Tuner, and it can start off a play from there. Also, you could bring back things like 004 and make Dweller. But yeah, that's about it. Also can bring back Garnet for that. We got Panzer Dragon because that plus a 005 is a Cyber Dragon Infinity. Black Rose Dragon, this is in here because if you summon Terratops and then use your normal summon to summon Red-Eyed Dice, target Terratops to become a level 6 monster. That's a 1-card Black Rose, but it does use your normal summon, so it's not the best, but it's okay. Despot Jet, this card's pretty nuts. It can really get big and really extend your plays. 1 Ignister, it's a really good card. Naturi Beast. Beast is good against Pendulums right now, and it's not too difficult to make. Odd-Eyes Meteor Burst Dragon, really good card again against Cosmos, against pretty much a lot of things. Then we have Scrap Dragon, just a good card in general, but also it combos really well with Despot 005 and 006 when they're in your Pendulum scales. Also, we have a Dweller, Adrius, Cyber Dragon Infinity, and Cyber Dragon Nova, Hope Harbinger, and Breaksword. The reason I'm playing Adrius is so I could have a combo extending play if I have a Seraphonite out and a 005. So that's about it. Now I kind of want to talk about some of the things the deck can do. So, you know that Despots can OTK. That's like well known. But what I've tried to do with them is make them more consistent and able to OTK through a back row. So one of the ways I've come up with this is through the addition of Terratops and Brilliant Fusion. So these two combined can start your play without even using your normal summon. So if I use a Terratop effect and add Red-Eyed Dice to my hand, I can then activate Brilliant Fusion, send Trick Clown, and Garnet. So I now would special my Trick Clown back, and I'd have a field of Terratops, Seraphonite, and Garnet. Sorry, Seraphonite and Trick Clown. Then, after this, I would normal my Red-Eyed Dice, and then I can target my Terratops to become either level 5, if I wanted to make a Cyber Dragon Infinity later on my play, or I can just, really you can change it to any level you need for a play that you're making. It's very situational, but you can make Cyber Dragon Infinity easily. You can make, if I was running it, you can make Gigant. I don't think the card is worth it, but you could opt to play it. From there, you sync with the Red-Eyed Dice, the Trick Clown, and your Seraphonite for a Jet. And now you still have yet to use your normal summon because, I forgot to mention, you use the normal summon of Seraphonite's effect to summon the Red-Eyed Dice. So you can activate a scale and then just pop it for bringing out 002, get a search for 003, and then you have your normal summon. So not only does that kind of get around having to deal with a back row, because you don't lose to just one Solemn Strike right there, you can search for the monster you want to summon that turn. So you don't have to just open up number 3 or 4, which this deck is very restricted in that matter, like most machine decks are actually. And that kind of brings me on my next rant about this deck. Machines and Earths in general have pretty awful support for being relevant in meta. Actually, they're quite hated. Cyber Dragon is dirty against them. System Down is nuts. And then there's also the fact that they don't have a card such as Rhoda, Tenki, any of that. They don't have a card for draw power like Allure. And they just have quite terrible support. They do, however, have cards that bring them back from the grave, such as Iron Call. They do have support such as this, which is now almost generic due to Instant Fusion and Norden. So their support is really lackluster, but the deck itself is explosive, and now through the additions of some of the techs I've made, it can actually get through a few back row and still go off. So, as many of you are wondering, I bet this deck is somewhere in the tier 2 range. I'm not exactly sure what order tier 2 is in. It's very convoluted. There's a lot of possibly tier 2 decks, but the main reason that makes it not tier 1 is that it lacks floatiness, and then, as I mentioned earlier, there is a ton of hate for machines. So, overall, really, really fun deck. Very good still. I'm not saying it's just for casual fun. It is very competitive and can be played at, I'd probably say it would be able to win a regional, maybe be able to top a YCS, but it isn't anywhere near the best. It just lacks a few key elements. So that's about it for this deck profile. Tell me what other deck profiles you guys want to see. I know this one wasn't really suggested. I just wanted to throw it out there because I've advanced this Deskbot deck so fast, and it's really come a long way from where it started. But anyways, I'll see you guys around. Tell me what you guys want to see next. Have a good day.